everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm May Park. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, hello sweet friends, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to show you guys how to create a couple of mixed media cards using the delicate cluster stem set from Altenew. I'll be using several techniques today, including stenciling and color layering. If you want to learn how to add a texture and details on your background, make sure to watch this video as I'll be creating a background using a stencil, ink sprays, and embossing paste. I'm also going to share lots of tips and tricks along the way, including a tip on how to achieve your color layered images that align with your dies perfectly. As usual, I'll show you my craft desk after my project is done, so make sure to watch this video until the end. So let's get started. These are some of the cards that I created using one of my favorite card making formulas. Stenciled background using embossing paste, ink splatters on the background, color layered image die cuts as a focal point, script word die cut, gold accent, and black sentiment banner. It's been 3 months since I made a card using this card making formula, so I wanted to make it again as this formula always gives me the best result. I pulled out 3 stem sets from Altenew, and I think all of these images are great for today's project as each set includes a good size of flowers and stems that could build a large floral spray. But I decided to use the delicate cluster stem set because it includes 4-step layers for each flower, so they will help add more colors and details. Then I'm going to choose a stencil. I love to use the stencil with a simple geometric pattern to bring attention to the focal point of my card, which will be the floral spray die cut. So I'll be using the broken chevron stencil and sunburst stencil. Today I'll be using a 140-pound watercolor paper so it can hold the weight of embossing paste nicely. You can also use your 120-pound Nina Solo white cardstock if you want. I'm using a watercolor paper because I don't want my background to look extra white. I'm cutting down my watercolor paper into 4¼ inch by 5½ inches using my Timo's paper trimmer. I'm prepping 2 panels as I will make 2 cards at the same time while all of my supplies are out on my desk. I'll be taping down my panel onto the Altenew watercolor palette. This process will help me rotate my panel easily without touching the panel while applying embossing paste. I'm going to secure my sunburst stencil over the panel using washi tape so the stencil won't move while applying the embossing paste. It's a very important step because you can make sure you get a nice and clean design transferred to your panel. Today I'm going to use Altenew embossing paste and Nouveau glimmer paste for stenciling. I'm going to pick up some paste with my spatula and mix the embossing paste and glimmer paste together. I'm applying some embossing paste with a spatula over the stencil toward one direction. You can spread your embossing paste over the entire background or partial area. As you can see, I'm rotating my palette so I can move around my paste from different directions. I'm going to make sure to go over all over the surface with my spatula to make it smooth toward the center of my panel, leaving some clean areas around the edge of my panel. If you leave your embossing paste without spreading out well, you can create some fun, rough texture on the background. So don't stress about smoothing the surface. So here's the most fun part. I'm going to lift the stencil straight up of my panel to reveal the stenciled image. Ta-da! It's hard to see in the video, but the background looks absolutely gorgeous with all the glitters in real life. I'm going to create another background using the broken chevron stencil. Since this stencil includes very thin lines, I'm going to be extra careful and work slowly. Otherwise, I might ruin my background as the embossing paste can smear under the stencil. You can also mix your embossing paste with the coloring mediums like Altenew ink sprays or watercolor paints to create your own colored embossing paste. You can go even further by applying the embossing powder over your texture pasted background and heat emboss it to create an extra dimension and texture. If you made a mistake, you can carefully remove the embossing paste with your finger. but once it dries, it's hard to remove it, so you might need to use a craft knife instead. Once you remove the stencil, I recommend you clean up your palette and spatulas right away, otherwise you'll have trouble taking off the embossing paste once it's dry. To add interest on my background, I'm going to splatter with the Altenew Jet Black ink spray. Of course, you can leave the background clean without ink sprays if you want. To create splatters, I'm going to put the black ink on a stamping block and then flick it off the block with a paintbrush. You can also pick up the ink from the ink spray bottle using a paintbrush and tap the body of the paintbrush with your finger. Depending on the amount of ink you load on your paintbrush, you can create different sizes of splatters. Now I'm going to splatter my background with the second color on each panel, Warm Sunshine and Frosty Pink. I chose these colors as each one will be used as part of color layering on the flowers later. If you don't want your colors to mix up together, make sure to dry the previous splatters using a heat tool before you add the next splatters. But I didn't dry in between because I kind of wanted to create a random messy look. Make sure to shake your spray bottle well before each use to evenly distribute metallic pigment. Once my background is done, I'm going to set my panels aside for about 10 to 20 minutes to let it air dry. While I'm waiting for my panels to dry, I'm going to go ahead and work on my floral images. I'm going to choose the ink colors for my images first. If you are not sure which colors work together, you can refer to the trifold insert card included in the set, as it shows 4 card designs with the color combinations. I love to stamp my leaves in gray, so I'll be using the warm gray over ink set from Altenew. For my flowers, I'll be using the Tea Party set and Pocket of Sunshine set. I will add a list of Altenew ink colors on the description box below and on my blog post in case you are interested in the specific colors I used on my cards. I'm going to pull out my dies from the delicate cluster die set and run them through my Spellbinder's platinum die cut machine. You may wonder why I'm die cutting first before stamping the images. If you had trouble before that you cut off the part of your stamped images while die cutting, you must watch my trick on how to make sure you stamp your images that fit in your dies perfectly. Especially, this trick will be very useful when your stamp has a thin line which can be easily bent. I'm going to place the negative side of my die cut panel and inlay my die cuts inside the openings. Yes, I'm going to use the edge of die cut opening as a stamping guide. When I position my stamp, I'm making sure the edge of my stamp stays inside the die cut. I'm going to start stamping the base layer first with a light color. Here I'm using the original Misty stamping tool for stamping today because this tool helps me stamp the images in a perfect placement and get a nice impression. If you don't have this tool, you could use a regular acrylic block or stamp press for stamping. After stamping my first layer, I'm going to leave my stamps on the Misty door so I can stamp my images on the exact same position on another piece of my die cuts. That way, I'll be able to get an extra stamped image. This tip will help you save time and effort, especially when you mass-produce cards. I'm keeping my trifold insert card next to me so I can refer to the layering guide while stamping. Please note that I'm stamping twice for each layer to make sure I get intense impression. I'm stamping my flowers using the following Altenew ink pads: Pink Pearl, Coral Bliss, Heartbeat, Vineyard Berry. Then I'll be using Evening Grey, Moonrock, Lava Rock for my stamps. If you struggle with choosing the color scheme for your flower projects, you can go with any traditional color combo like red, yellow, and green. However, if you'd like to step up your designs to the next level, I recommend you go outside your comfort zone by adding unusual color like gray or indigo to your color combination. Small change will make a big difference. These are my finished die cuts in 2 different color combos. You can see that all of the stamped images have some white edge around them, which looks so nice. Now I'm going to attach my stenciled panel on the A2 size top folding white card base using double-sided tape. You could use Altenew glue tape if you want, but I recommend you use a strong adhesive to make sure your embossing pasted panel stays flat and nice. Next, I'm going to open my sentiment. Here is my plastic container full of sentiment leftovers. I store all of them in one place for future projects. I'm just pulling out some of the sentiment die cuts and banners from the container and place them below my temporary floral arrangement. For some reason, my brain was not working and I wasn't able to choose the sentiment for my cards. So I decided to arrange my die cut flowers first so I can have some time to think about my sentiments. I'm mimicking a bunch of flowers, so I'm attaching the middle part of stems together using a glue. I'm mounting my die cut flowers on the card front using 3M foam tape to add some dimension. I'm also using tonic notebook crystal glaze as 3M tape is not strong enough to attach my paper on the embossing paste. Please note that I'm using 2 or 3 layers of foam tape underneath my die cuts to create a different dimension. I was going to tie a bow to decorate my flowers, but I changed my mind because I wanted to keep my focal point clean and simple as my background is already busy with splatters. Next, I'm going to trim off the excess of my stems using my scissors. I'm going to add some tiny white pearls on the center of each flower. Adding an embellishment is an easy way to add some interest on your card. If you don't have small-sized pearls, you can add dots using a white gel pen. Now I'm back to my sentiment. I chose 2 black strips from my sentiment leftover container. Each sentiment was white embossed on black cardstock. Then I'm going to mount my sentiment banner on my card front using 3M foam tape. I'm using my T-square ruler to place my sentiment in straight. I'm using tonic notebook crystal glaze again to make sure my sentiment banner stays in place. To finish off my card, I'm going to stamp the additional sentiments inside my card using the beautiful inside stamp set. As always, I'm also going to stamp the sentiment on the back of my card using my favorite Crafty Life stamp set. By the way, I'm using the new black ink from Altenew, which is Obsidian Pigment Ink. This oil-based black pigment ink is perfect for stamping extremely fine and detailed sentiments and images. The rich black color dries quickly and does not fade. I'm sure I will use Obsidian Pigment Ink often because it's also waterproof and works beautifully with watercolor and other water-based mediums. This is it for today. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. I hope this video was inspiring or informative for you guys. I will link all the products and everything that I talked about in the description box below. If you have any questions, just write them below and I'd be happy to answer them for you. If you enjoyed my video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you haven't done it yet, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more card making videos. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye bye!